Hello, I'm Goat Ross, and I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of our new series, The Joy of Roguelikes. If this is your first time with us, allow me to extend a personal invitation for you to grab a coffee and get comfortable. And if you've been with us before, please allow me to thank you for your support. We're going to interview roguelike game developers in each show and illustrate the beauty of this genre that we all enjoy so much. In this episode, I have a discussion with one of the developers at Gory Gaming, a team that's been working hard on a game called Days of Purgatory. The game is a roguelike FPS, and it's packed with undead swarms that are ready to beat the devil out of you if you're not running and gunning fast enough. You ready to have some fun? Let's get crazy.
Actually, I like your channel, though. Your videos are pretty entertaining. I was watching some of the Noita videos.
Oh, I love that game. I've probably played that one the most this year. I just got completely sucked into it, but I appreciate that. Yeah, are you a Noita player yourself?
No, I haven't picked that one up yet. I've been playing a lot of Risk of Rain 2 and
It's a great game.
Binding of Isaac and Hades. I love roguelikes. I'm addicted to roguelikes. That one looks crazy interesting, though. You've actually convinced me to buy it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that's really what I want this to be about. Your game and just roguelikes in general. Tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into game development, what type of role you play in the team, those types of things.
Sure. Well, I was initially a senior network analyst for a networking company in Canada, and it was driving me crazy working for somebody else. So I started working part-time and taught myself how to program and how to work in Unity, actually.
Okay.
And I had a programmer at the time, so basically I'd be handling everything else, and he'd be just doing the programming. But we had like a major... He couldn't get the networking portion of it working in Unity, so we switched over to Unreal.
Okay.
When we switched over to Unreal, we had to like redo all the levels, redo all of the entire mechanics of the game, get everything working from scratch again, and then like a year and a half down the line, he just couldn't actually get everything working the way it was supposed to because he didn't fully understand what he was doing. Because he was more responsible for the written side of the code, and I was handling everything through blueprints. So
Okay.
yeah, I taught myself how to do all of that, and then one day he just up and told me that he didn't want to. He was unable to actually do the networking side of it because he didn't understand it well enough.
Yeah.
So I went and found another gentleman on Upwork, that online hiring site.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I found a guy who had made a game that was like a Fortnite ripoff. Like they were just trying to create the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, there's no way he could make that without understanding how netcode works.
Right.
So that was like a huge green flag for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we started working with him maybe a year and a half ago, something like this.
Okay.
And yeah, it's actually been only him, myself, and my girlfriend who have been working on the game. It's just the three of us.
Wow.
We made the whole thing just the three of us. It's been a lot of work.
How long have you been working on it all together?
Since we're in Unreal, it's been about 6 years. And then before that, another 4 years before that. Yeah. Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years, and we had to like scrap a lot of things and change a lot of things. So yeah.
Okay. That's super interesting. And so over the course of time, things change. You move to a different system altogether. You're just kind of having to wear a lot of different hats all the time in that small team environment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the amount of things I had to teach myself that I had never even touched before. To teach myself video editing, how to create textures, how to get the proper icons for things that don't exist. I had to learn how to do 3D modeling, how to do 3D painting. I was able to do all the game design stuff because I've been a gamer my whole life, so I know the concepts pretty well. But balancing it has become one of the really challenging things. Actually, it's one of the most challenging things I've come across. Getting a proper balance to creature health, the spawning amounts, perking and leveling up, and then keeping it balanced so that you don't have the characters outscale the creatures. You don't have the creatures outscale the characters. It's quite a mess. It's very entertaining.
Yeah. So before the game was out in the wild and, folks like myself were getting to play it, it's just you and these two other folks that are playing the game to understand what needs to happen from a balancing standpoint, or did you have the game out to others that were kind of giving you feedback along the way? How was that happening?
It was mostly myself, my girlfriend, the programmer, and my friends from back in Canada, and my brother and his friends from back in Canada. But that was pretty much. It was a very small team. Like the people who helped us tests, it was like under 10 people.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
very small.
Yeah, that's really something. So you talked about being a lifelong gamer. Talk about, what was your first console, the first few games you remember playing as a kid that, maybe still stick with you today and maybe enter into your design process or, kind of drive you one way or the other.
I had an Atari when I was growing. I'm old. I'm 37, so
Yeah. Okay.
I
You're
started
you're
off
not
with
old. I'm
Atari.
I'm also 37. You're not old.
Oh, really? But yeah, we started off on Atari, and then we had a PC, but it was so long ago. I remember typing things on it and playing Police Quest, but that was pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then we got a Super Nintendo, and I got badly addicted to Super Mario Brothers. Used to wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning so that I could play without my parents knowing that I was awake playing video games. um,
Okay.
yeah, and then I've had mostly Nintendo consoles my whole life. We've never actually had a PlayStation or anything like that. And
Okay.
I actually got into computers at school because I wanted to play games on two separate computers. I wanted to play. Do you Marathon on it's like an old Mac OS game. Marathon.
The running game, right?
No, this one's it was a shooter game. It was like the game that was pretty much released around the same time of Doom, if I remember correctly. And it was the PC. It was the Mac equivalent. It was like the Mac trying to make a first-person shooter.
That one's not ringing a bell then. No, I'm thinking of a different one.
It's fine. It's just I wanted to play that game on two separate computers, and that got me interested in networking. And like I had this
Oh,
obsession with playing first-person shooters with other people. Like GoldenEye blew my mind.
yeah,
That game ate
yeah,
me. That game was
yeah.
ridiculous. Um, so yeah, that's actually what got me into networking, and then from there I decided I wanted to start making games. So, but most of the games I actually played as a child didn't actually motivate me to make this game. It was Killing Floor, Risk of Rain 2, and Hades that were actually my governing. Uh, those are the things that gave me the most amount of direction. They were it's made in their essence.
Well, they're all super, super solid games. I haven't spent too much time with Killing Floor, but I know it. I definitely know it, and that makes sense, of course. Let's talk more about Days of Purgatory. The game is a roguelike. Definitely, that was the piece that got me initially interested in it, aside from being able to blow zombies away. But you know, talk a little bit about the game and why you decided to go with the roguelike approach overall. You mentioned already you've been a lifelong roguelike fan, but talk about, out of all the different formulas you could have applied to this type of game, why the direction of roguelikes?
It was actually the inadequacies of Killing Floor that made me start wanting to do this because, like, Killing Floor is just a game where the enemies spawn in waves and then they just come at you and you have to survive as a team in a level, and that's pretty much it. The more you stay clumped up,
Yeah,
the better it goes. You have character classes and everything. It's a lot of fun, but it just lacks any kind of an end game. It lacks any kind of a goal. It's just basically live. That's it. And I wanted more
sure.
to it. I wanted to go out and I wanted to be able to find things. I wanted to be able to kill more zombies. I wanted to have like extra events that could occur that would be challenging to the player. And I really wanted to make them. This is one of the things about Killing Floor. Whenever you're playing that game, by the time one of the rounds is over, you're like clenching your mouse and you're like stressed out because of the creatures coming for you, which is exactly the kind of feeling I wanted to bring. I really like that
Right,
feeling. I want to stress out the
right.
player.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like lately, and you tell me if you disagree, but it just seems like lately there's been an uptick in roguelike games being pushed out from independent developers. I mean, we saw Returnal as well, but I think we could agree that that's more unique. That you see a AAA game coming out that's a roguelike. But as an independent developer out there, where it's already tough to stand out from the crowd, what kind of things go through your mind as you think about creating unique designs that allow you to do that?
It needs to be something that's visually captivating, because I find that's what mostly gets the attention. It's you have to draw them in with something visually appealing, and then from there they can learn more about the details of the game that you're trying to make. You need to get them in with some kind of a hook, and visually is always the first way to go. It's like the if you have something unique about the way it looks, that's very good. But it's actually very difficult to get to advertise. We noticed that like we're trying to advertise in North America and trying to advertise the rest of the world. And North Americans, they're very reserved about being interested in things that they've never heard of. It's very weird. I'm not exactly sure how to deal with it yet, to be honest. Like when we started advertising in India and Russia and Europe, it was very easy to get people to take a look at it, even if they weren't going to buy it, even if they weren't going to invest much time into it. They would at least take the time to investigate. But North Americans, I don't know why they just seem, maybe it's just too much. They have so much in their face, so many games to pick from. I mean, there's like 100 games released every day on Steam. It's a scary thing.
I mean, there really are. Yeah. It is an unbelievable deluge of games, but not all of them have the type of quality that captures people. Do you think that it's the roguelike genre that throws people for a loop in North America, or could it be other things?
I'm not sure actually. It's a good question. I find I found that a lot of people who tried the game actually didn't even know what a roguelike was. So there's a very good chance that there's a lot of truth in that.
That's a really good segue here. So we talked about there being a lot of different opinions out there on what a roguelike even is, and it's almost subjective these days. I'd like to know how you define what a roguelike is.
Sure. Normally, it like one of the foundations of it is having like a level that is randomly generated every time you play the game, which is to be perfectly honest, I love that kind of thing where you every single time you go through the game, you don't know exactly where everything is going to be. But like a game like Risk of Rain, they had like all of the levels were pre-designed, and then they just reused the levels and changed the positions of items. They have like random positions that they can occur, and it randomly picks which position it's going to use. We modeled that. We modeled it very closely after that. I found Risk of Rain 2 was just like such a polished game. I really wanted to take as much inspiration from them as possible. So we did the same thing. We wanted to have the levels really high detailed, which is more difficult to do with procedural. So we detailed the levels really well, and then we had the locations of all of the items randomized in each level, and then we also had like in Days of Purgatory, every day you're supposed to find specific objectives, and if you don't deal with those objectives, when you return at the end of the day to Shadwell, you have to defend Shadwell against hordes of monsters that come at you. And
Right.
if you don't deal with the events during the day, it actually amplifies the creatures at night. Or if it's supposed to be a mini boss that's inside of one of the levels, the mini boss joins the night wave, and you have to deal with them at the same time that you're dealing with the rest of the horde that's coming in. So we designed it so that these events that you're supposed to deal with during the day can actually be distributed through multiple maps, and you have to go to each of the maps and deal with them. And the longer you take, the more difficult the day becomes as it progresses. And through this, we tried to also including a lot of things to search for and character classes you can unlock and new weapons that you can acquire and modules for the defenses inside of Shadwell. We have these orbs that power the power defenses of Shadwell, and
Right.
if the orb is taken out, the barrier goes down and the creatures can actually get inside the building. And those defense mechanisms, you can put stuff inside of them to make them defend themselves or give them some kind of durability so that they don't immediately cave. And we tried to have it so that it was all randomly generated. Every one of the positions has multiple chances of where it can be in every level, and we wanted to separate it as much as possible so that every playthrough feels as unique as possible. I think that's like one of the hallmarks of a roguelike, is that every single time you play the game, it feels unique from the previous time.
Let me complicate it further. What do you find to be the difference between a roguelike and a roguelite?
Oh, that's a tough one. So I couldn't actually tell you. I was just having this discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and I couldn't even tell you, to be honest. I know roguelites, it's something about the tracking of the progress of the game or the method of things being unlocked.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. It really seems to be driven by this, what the community tends to call meta progression, and what they're referring to is permanent upgrades that you unlock along the way that maybe helps deal with some of the difficulty or some of the RNG that you run into across various runs.
To be unlocked from the start of the playthrough every time, or is it just something you unlock and then have the ability to uh, acquire the next time you play through?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think that's where the subjectivity comes into play, because I think that there's probably a group of gamers out there that would tell you it's unlocked and it's permanently unlocked. It's a health boost that they get, like in Crown Trick. You're spending some currency and you're opening up some permanent upgrades that you're going to take with you every run. Others might say, well, now wait a second. As soon as you encounter an item or two in Noida, you're then going to be able to find that item in future runs. So that's considered, some kind of progression.
Oh, that game looks good. Actually, I haven't heard of Crown Trick. It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, that one's really good. Yeah. What would you say has been the most challenging part of creating Days of Purgatory, other than having to wear 17 hats at a time? What's been most challenging?
It's a tough question. Actually, this is the weirdest thing. I think advertising is literally the most difficult thing so far. I mean, I taught myself how to deal with the blue because we swapped over for multiple engines, so we got the foundation of it pretty good. And then when we switched to Unreal, it was like a whole different beast because that I find Unity was designed for people who are getting into game dev, and Unreal is for people who are at the later stages where they understand everything to a point where they can do everything manually. And it was easier to understand than getting my head around advertising. Advertising, for some reason, is just it's a beast. Very difficult. Very difficult.
How have you gone about it? How what strides have you made?
We started. We haven't paid any company to be like a publisher for us just yet, but I think this is the direction we're going to have to go in the end because getting traction through Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, trying to operate inside of the circles of indie game development where they sort of promote one another because they're very good at doing that. I've noticed the indie developers they what's the term?
It's a supportive community.
Yeah, they like if you post something online, they'll share it to everyone on their page, like very easily, very open and very warm, which I was really grateful for.
Yeah.
But like getting people to actually take the time, like I think we may also need to do something like a free weekend where people can actually come in and try the game without investing anything. Because I mean, when you have Warzone being free, it's difficult to get somebody to pay $20 for a game.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Warzone is so polished and they're offering it completely for free. It's competing with a giant like that is. And like Back 4 Blood too. Back 4 Blood was $60, but everybody was on board with that because they knew what the game was like.
Well, that's true, and I think it made it a lot more accessible as well for anybody that's a Game Pass subscriber. And it turns out there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, it's currently available via early access on Steam. What kind of timeline are you envisioning at this point? And maybe that's going to have to sync up to whatever you all end up doing on the publishing side. But what does that roadmap look like overall?
For the completion of the game?
Yeah.
We don't actually have a date for the completion of the game because I want to keep adding to it. I want to keep adding ruptures, keep adding events, keep adding different maps, and I want to have I have like a whole list of ideas of extra things I want to implement into the game. So we don't actually have a date for completely finishing it, but I'm hoping in the next like 3 or 4 months we should have a lot more content. for people to play multiple rounds and not see the same thing twice. That's what I'd really like to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a game mode on there right now called Coliseum, where because we have these in the deathmatch we have these grenades where you can actually throw the grenades and they spawn a whole bunch of creatures that actually fight for you as opposed to being enemies. And we created a level where everybody could take one of those creature grenades and throw them into the center and have all the creatures battle one another, and then whoever wins in the end is based on the score that they've accumulated throughout the match. So I want to have unique things like that just make it interesting, so people can swap from one game mode to another and have a different experience from the previous experience. I think that'd be really neat.
How did you come up with that idea? That sounds super unique.
I wanted to be able to spawn creatures at will that would fight for you, and like the cool thing is, so those grenades you can actually toggle between 4 different types of grenades. Each one of them will spawn different types of creatures that will fight for you, and they all require a certain amount of energy to be thrown. And depending on the amount of energy that you have, changes the number of creatures that come out and how strong they are. It's like a direct correlation between. So yeah,
This
it's
mode
pretty
is
neat.
live. This mode is live right now.
Yeah, it's live right now, and in the deathmatch, if you play deathmatch, you can enable creature grenades, and you can have a normal deathmatch in a small arena where everybody has access to the grenades and can throw them at one another. It's gonna be pretty neat. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. We're definitely going to try that next time we jump in. The difficulty level just kicked our ass. Me and the other guy that were playing, it just walloped us. And when we were in the hospital section, you kind of start in that area, and then there's a ramp up, and then if I'm remembering right, you can kind of finally make your way into the hospital. We couldn't even get up that ramp. We were so swarmed, and I was saying, I don't know, maybe we're doing something wrong. I don't know what to do.
You got to be very objective driven. You got to pick up the beacon, scan, find your objective, and move to your objective. The creatures are able to see you pretty easily, so they can swarm you pretty quickly. And if you stagnate, they don't stop spawning. And I left that very much like that on purpose because I want it to be like a constant pressure.
Okay.
And as the game progresses, the demons get stronger, and eventually you reach specific events where the beacon that you're carrying starts glowing orange, glowing red.
Okay.
And when it glows orange, that means that there's an invasion about to happen. When it glows red, that's when they're actually coming for you. So like the best thing you can do is pick up the beacon and move as quickly as possible into the hospital to one of the objectives as soon as you can. That'd be the most highly recommended thing.
Okay.
But if you stagnate, you will die.
Very clerly, yes. Can confirm the accuracy of that statement. Is there any permanent progress that unlocks with some type of in-game found currencies, or any type of if we're going to use the language out there, any meta progression to be found, like a health upgrade that you're going to have in perpetuity, things like that. Anything like that in the game?
It doesn't. So when you restart a playthrough, you won't get anything pro bono. I'm not just going to give anything to the player immediately. At least I haven't fully decided on that yet. I'm kind of leaning against it. I was contemplating allowing the player to pick their class once they've unlocked the class. But the way it works is you go out during the day, and when you're finished, you come back to Shadowroll, you defend the creature's invasion, and then afterwards, the character that you've been working on, you sacrifice in exchange for experience that levels up your account. And as your account levels up, you gain a whole bunch of different things that can increase. It's all organized by weapon class or by survival. And if it's by weapon class, you can gain something that increases the amount of damage, the amount of penetration, like the number of creatures that can penetrate, the amount of armor penetration, the reload speed, the magazine capacity, all these kind of things. But it doesn't give them to you just like that. It unlocks your ability to find them in the world the next time you play. One of those.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we have the character classes as well, and every character class has a unique passive and an active. Some of the classes are like healing classes. Other ones are actually for the beacon. So there's a class called the Torchbearer, where when you carry the beacon, you don't suffer any movement penalties. and if you find one of the pink floating orbs, the teleportation charges,
Yes.
you can actually just walk up to it, use your ability, and you can pick it up immediately. You don't have to fight the 2 waves that normally come out. So this kind of
That's
thing.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
we have
cool.
a bunch of classes like that. One of them actually allows you and your entire team to your entire team or just yourself. I think it's just yourself. You have unlimited magazine ammunition for
Oh,
like 30
wow.
seconds. Yeah. So
Okay.
it gives you like a 30-second window where you can just lay waste to everything around you.
Right.
I wanted to make the players feel empowered with these abilities, with these power ups and things like this. So yeah.
Yeah. You have 30 seconds, and then death is coming right around the corner again.
Yeah. Yeah, we we had an
Man.
explosion expert too that increases the explosion radius of grenades, so you can But I think it's just during the period that's active. So when you throw a grenade, no, it's a permanent thing, and their ability is that when you activate it, it refills your grenades. That's what it does. Gives you like a full restock of all the grenade types because we have 4 different grenade types, 3. Yeah,
Okay.
so.
Very cool. If this ends up being a success on the PC, would it be a goal of yours to eventually see this on consoles?
Oh yes, definitely. I would love to see this on PlayStation and Xbox. That would be amazing. I don't know if the Switch could ever handle it. The game's a bit too heavy. Maybe if Nintendo makes a more powerful console instead of just adding an OLED screen to their console.
That's an interesting move, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a weird one.
Now, if there's anything else you want to mention about the game or plug, I'm happy to include that in this.
I think we pretty much covered everything. Really enthusiastic about making video games, and I actually do appreciate the constructive criticism from. We've been getting a lot of feedback from a lot of the people of things that they like and things that they don't like, and like one of the things that we received was actually pretty much everyone's been commenting on the perk system because it brings up a menu that comes in your screen that you have to actually click on and read, and it's just too cumbersome for the fast pacedness of the game. So we're going to be swapping that out for a different system that we're still deciding on. It's probably going to be just a pickup system that's random and automated, so that the player has less time required for them to actually figure out what they want to pick. It'd be just done for them instead. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
I'm high-fiving you for that one because we even joked about it while we were playing. You've got to get some real distance between yourself and the enemies in order to apply those upgrades because there's not much time, to think about it. Like they are coming for your face. Yeah. So that's great to hear. Can we look forward to maybe a difficulty where I would stand a chance in the game?
The worst part is the most recent update. I made it harder.
Oh my goodness!
I increased the ratio.
From what standpoint? Wow, the spawn rate?
Yeah, I increased the creature density per player count. So the more players there were in, it was at like 0.15%. 15% increase per player, and I upped it to 25%. And I increased the max number of zombies as well. But I think I'm going to make it so that the normal mode is easier, has less zombies, so that you can actually get through it. And then the hard mode is going to kick everyone's ass. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that's that's wonderful.
In the normal mode, we tried to make it so that all of the objectives followed single maps. So you'd go to one map, and the curse, the rupture, the loot cache, and the cages for getting new characters. They would all be in the same level, and then when you finish that level, you can just move to the next level, and it would be the same thing. And then in the hard mode, it's just completely randomly distributed in every level. You never know which event is going to be where. You don't know where the cages are going to be or the loot caches, and you just gotta contend with it as best you can.
That's interesting. Okay.
I really like difficult shooting games.
I love that you guys are making changes to it based on the feedback. Well, cheers to your success. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Well.
And, I hope that we can continue to give you some exposure. And if there's anything I can try to do to assist, let me know.
Well, I hope your YouTube I hope your YouTube tier takes off because you're definitely earning it with your video and content and stuff. It's pretty entertaining. I hope it goes well for you.
Well, I really appreciate that. You let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you in the future.
I appreciate you.
All right. You take care, man.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.